Ambassador Zethkri stood before the massive viewing screen in the Galactic Council's evaluation chamber. His four eyes studied the data streams that flowed across the display like digital waterfalls. After 300 years of service to the Council, he had seen many species apply for membership. Most followed predictable patterns. The humans were different. The species called themselves humans and came from a blue-green world they named Earth. They had only developed faster than light travel 23 standard years ago. This made them very young in galactic terms. Most species took centuries to master such technology, yet here they were, requesting full membership in the Galactic Council. "Tell me again about their military history," Zethkri said to his assistant, Commander Rixal of the Centauri Defense Force. Rixal's tentacles moved across his datapad with practiced ease. "Strange patterns, Ambassador. Their recorded conflicts are brief but decisive. Very decisive. In the past 1,000 Earth years, they have fought over 200 major wars. Most lasted between 1 and 10 years. None lasted more than 12 years. Zethkri made a sound that roughly translated to surprise. 12 years maximum? The average Council war lasts 80 to 120 years. How do they end conflicts so quickly? That is what makes them unusual, sir. They do not seem to fight for territory or resources like most species. When humans fight, they appear to fight for something they call total victory. They continue until their enemy surrenders completely or can no longer fight." The ambassador moved to another screen showing human military capabilities. Their fleet was small compared to other council members. Only 47 interstellar ships. Most carried mixed crews of soldiers, scientists, and engineers. This was odd. Council species usually kept their military and civilian sectors separate. "What about their technology level?" Zethkri asked. "Advanced in some areas, basic in others," Rixal replied. "Their weapons technology is about average for a new spacefaring species. Their ships are well designed but not remarkable. However, their information systems are quite sophisticated. They seem very interested in communication networks and data analysis." Zethkri nodded. Many species developed strong information systems. It was necessary for managing interstellar civilizations. Still, something about the human approach felt different. Their applications mentioned something called intelligence gathering as a core military doctrine. Most species gathered information about enemies during wars. Humans seemed to gather information about everyone all the time. "Show me their political structure," the ambassador requested. A new display showed Earth's governing system. Unlike most council species, humans did not have a single planetary government. Instead, they had nearly 200 separate nations. These nations often disagreed with each other. Yet somehow they had worked together to develop space travel and apply for council membership. How do they make decisions without a unified government? Zethkri wondered aloud. "They have something called the United Nations," Rixal explained. "All their nations send representatives to discuss major issues. When they applied for council membership, this organization voted. The vote was not unanimous, but it was close enough that they considered it binding. This was very unusual. Most species achieved planetary unity before reaching the stars. The few exceptions were usually species that had destroyed themselves in global wars. Humans seem to have avoided this fate despite having no central authority." Zethkri moved to the final set of data screens. These showed human cultural patterns and social structures. What he saw there made him pause. "Commander, are these cultural analysis reports correct?" Rixal checked his sources. "Yes, sir. Verified by 3 independent assessment teams. Humans appear to have something they call international law. They have agreed to rules about how they treat prisoners in war. They provide medical care to enemy wounded. They rebuild civilian areas damaged in conflicts. They even provide aid to defeated enemies." Aid to defeated enemies? Zethkri had never heard of such a thing. Why would they do that? The reports suggest it is part of their military doctrine. They believe that helping defeated enemies prevents future wars. They call it winning the peace. The ambassador sat down heavily in his chair. After 3 centuries of evaluating species, he thought he understood military thinking. Strong species conquered weak ones. Defeated enemies became slaves or were eliminated. Resources went to the victors. This was how the galaxy worked, but humans seemed to operate by different rules. They fought total wars but then helped their enemies recover. They had no unified government, but somehow made collective decisions. They were young in space but had sophisticated understanding of information warfare. "What is the preliminary threat assessment?" Seth Cree asked. Moderate, Rixel replied. Their fleet is small. Their technology is adequate but not superior. Their political structure is unstable. Military analysts classify them as a minor threat that could become moderate with time. Seth Cree looked at the assessment report on his screen. Everything Rixel said was true according to standard evaluation methods. Small fleet meant limited ability to project power. Average technology meant no significant advantages. Unstable government meant difficulty in sustained military campaigns. Yet something bothered him about this assessment. The humans had ended all their wars quickly and decisively. They had achieved spaceflight despite political divisions. They had developed sophisticated information systems. These facts did not fit the profile of a minor threat. Schedule a direct meeting with their delegation, Seth Cree decided. I want to speak with them personally. Sir, that is unusual for a preliminary evaluation. Yes, it is. But these humans are unusual. Standard protocols may not be adequate. 3 days later, Seth Cree sat across from the human delegation in a secure conference room. The human leader was a female named Ambassador Sarah Chen. She appeared calm and confident despite being surrounded by alien technology and multiple species. Ambassador Chen, Seth Cree began, your application is being processed according to standard procedures. However, some aspects of your species require clarification. Of course, Ambassador Seth Cree, we are happy to answer any questions. Your military history shows an unusual pattern, quick wars with decisive outcomes. Most council species fight longer conflicts with negotiated settlements. Can you explain this difference? Ambassador Chen was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady. Ambassador, my species learned something important from our early history. Long wars cause massive suffering for everyone involved. When conflict becomes unavoidable, we believe it is better to end it quickly and completely. How do you end conflict so completely? By removing the enemy's ability and desire to continue fighting. We target their military capabilities, not their civilian population. We gather detailed intelligence about their weaknesses. We coordinate our attacks for maximum effectiveness, and when they surrender, we help them rebuild so they have no reason to fight us again. Seth Cree felt a chill run through his body. The human spoke about military strategy the way others might discuss weather patterns, calm, logical, efficient, yet she was describing tactics that could destroy entire civilizations. What about species that refuse to surrender? He asked. That has not happened yet. Ambassador Chen replied simply. We make the alternative to surrender very clear. The meeting continued for 2 more hours. The humans answered every question directly and honestly. They provided detailed information about their capabilities and intentions. They even offered to share some of their military doctrines with the council. After the humans left, Seth Cree sat alone in the conference room. He had been evaluating species for 3 centuries. He had seen warrior races that conquered half their star systems. He had seen technological species that could destroy planets. He had seen ancient civilizations with wisdom beyond measure, but he had never seen anything quite like humanity. They were not the strongest species he had encountered. They were not the most advanced, but there was something about their approach to conflict that was both terrifying and fascinating. They did not fight wars the way other species did. They solved military problems. They ended conflicts permanently. They turned enemies into allies, all while maintaining moral standards that most species abandoned during wartime. Seth Cree began typing his preliminary report. After much consideration, he changed the threat assessment from moderate to requires further evaluation. Something told him that humanity would change the Galactic Council's understanding of warfare itself. He had no idea how right he was. War leader Gorthak studied the tactical display in his command ship's bridge. The holographic star map showed human territories glowing in soft blue light. 3 outer colonies. Minimal defenses. Perfect targets for what his people called a testing raid. The Gorthak Empire had ruled through strength for over 2,000 years. When new species joined the Galactic Council, the Gorthak tested them. A few raids, some destroyed ships, maybe a captured colony or 2. Most species learned quickly to pay tribute or accept Gorthak protection. It was efficient. It maintained the natural order. Begin the assault, Gorthak commanded. His ship led a force of 37 Gorthak vessels toward the human colony of New Perth. Intelligence reports said it was a mining settlement with about 50,000 civilians. and minimal military presence. The Corac attack followed their standard pattern. They emerged from hyperspace in formation. They broadcast surrender demands. They waited for the predictable response. Usually, new species tried to negotiate or called for help from the Council. Some attempted desperate defensive actions. All eventually submitted. But the humans did something unexpected. They said nothing. War Leader, his communications officer, reported, "The humans are not responding to our surrender demands. Scan for defensive preparations," Corac ordered. "No unusual activity detected, sir." The colony appears to be continuing normal operations. This was puzzling. Most species at least tried to mount some defense when faced with superior force. The humans seemed to be ignoring the Corac fleet entirely. "Begin bombardment of military targets," Corac decided. "Show them we are serious." The Corac ships opened fire on the colony's small defense station. The station was destroyed in minutes. Still, the humans did not respond. They did not evacuate. They did not surrender. They simply continued their daily activities as if nothing had happened. "Sir," the tactical officer said, "this is very strange behavior. Should we target civilian areas?" "No," Corac replied firmly. "We are testing their military resolve, not committing genocide. Target their communication arrays and landing platforms." For the next 6 hours, the Corac systematically destroyed New Perth's military infrastructure. The humans offered no resistance. They sent no distress calls. They acted as if the attack was not happening. "War Leader," the communications officer suddenly announced, "we are receiving a transmission from the colony." "Finally," Corac muttered. "Put them on the main screen." A human appeared on the display. He was an older male wearing simple civilian clothing. He looked calm and slightly sad. "I am Governor Martinez of New Perth Colony," the human said. "I want to inform you that your attack is being recorded and transmitted to our home system. We will comply with reasonable demands while this situation is resolved." "Reasonable demands?" Corac was confused. "You will surrender your colony and submit to Corac authority." "I'm afraid that's not reasonable," Governor Martinez replied. "However, we will not interfere with your current activities as long as you avoid harming civilians." The connection ended before Corac could respond. The war leader stared at the blank screen in disbelief. In 2,000 years of conquest, no one had ever called Corac demands unreasonable and then ignored them. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, "I'm detecting unusual activity in the outer system." "What kind of activity?" "Unknown ships moving at high speed. They appear to be human vessels, but our intelligence said this system had minimal defenses." Corac frowned. "How many ships?" "Difficult to determine, sir. The sensor readings are unclear. Possibly 3 to 5 vessels. 5 ships against 37. Continue the bombardment." But over the next 18 hours, strange things began happening to the Corac fleet. Ships started reporting system failures. Communication arrays went offline without explanation. Engine problems forced vessels to drop out of formation. Navigation systems provided incorrect coordinates. "War Leader," his chief engineer reported, 7 ships have lost primary power. 4 more are reporting total communication blackouts. The technical problems appear to be spreading through the fleet. "How is this possible?" "Run full diagnostics on all systems. We have, sir. No obvious causes can be identified. The failures seem random but are happening too frequently to be coincidental." Corac felt a cold sensation in his primary stomach. "Are we under attack?" "No energy weapons detected, sir. No incoming missiles. No signs of enemy action." Yet the Corac fleet continued to degrade. Within 36 hours, only half their ships remained fully operational. The others drifted in space with dead engines and silent communication systems. "War Leader," the communications officer said urgently, "we are receiving a priority message from Corac Command." The face of Supreme War Leader Morthak appeared on the screen. His expression was grim. "Corac, report your current status immediately." "Supreme War Leader, we are encountering unexpected technical difficulties with our fleet. The human colony remains secured, but "Forget the colony," Morthak interrupted. "Our home system is under attack." Corac felt his blood turn to ice. "Under attack by whom?" "We don't know. Every military installation in our core systems has been destroyed. Our defense fleets have been eliminated. Our command centers are gone. The attacks happened simultaneously across 17 star systems. How many enemy ships?" That's the problem. We never saw any ships. Our facilities simply exploded. All at the same time. Every missile depot, every shipyard, every command bunker. Gone. Gorthak's mind struggled to process this information. The Korthak Empire controlled over 40 star systems. Their military infrastructure was spread across thousands of installations. No enemy could attack them all simultaneously without a massive fleet. Supreme War Leader, what are your orders? Return home immediately. All raiding operations are suspended. We need every ship for defense. Defense against what? You said you never saw enemy vessels. We don't know what we're defending against. That's what makes this terrifying. The transmission ended, leaving Gorthak staring at a blank screen. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to restore their ship's systems. But Gorthak barely noticed their efforts. He thought about the human governor's calm demeanor, the lack of resistance to the Korthak attack, the mysterious technical failures affecting his fleet, the simultaneous destruction of Korthak military infrastructure across 17 star systems. A terrible suspicion began forming in his mind. The humans had not ignored the Korthak attack. They had responded, but their response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Communications officer, Gorthak said quietly. Contact the human colony. Governor Martinez appeared on the screen again. He still looked calm and sad. Governor, Gorthak began carefully. I have received disturbing reports from my home systems. Are your people responsible for attacks on Korthak military installations? War Leader Gorthak, the governor replied. Your empire attacked our colony without provocation. Did you expect us to do nothing? But how? Your species has only been in space for 23 years. You have 47 ships. We have thousands of installations across dozens of systems. Governor Martinez was quiet for a moment. War Leader, did you think we would apply for Galactic Council membership without understanding the military situation in our region? Did you believe we would expand into space without preparing for potential threats? A chill ran down Gorthak's spine. What are you saying? We have been monitoring Korthak activities for 15 years. We know the location of every military facility in your empire. We understand your communication networks, your supply chains, your command structures. When you attacked our colony, we were ready. Impossible. Our security systems are impenetrable. War Leader, you have been transmitting all your operational data to us for 3 years. Your communication networks have been compromised since before we applied for council membership. We know everything about your military capabilities because you told us yourselves. Gorthak felt sick. The technical failures affecting my fleet? Your ships have been receiving updated software patches through your standard communication channels. Those patches included certain modifications to your systems. You've been sabotaging us for years. We've been preparing for this moment. When the Korthak Empire decided to test humanity, we were ready to pass that test. The governor's expression grew serious. War Leader, your empire's military capability has been eliminated. Your civilian populations are unharmed. Your government remains intact. However, your ability to threaten other species has been permanently removed. What do you want from us? Nothing, Governor Martinez replied. Return to your territories. Care for your people. If you need assistance rebuilding your defensive capabilities, we will provide it. If you choose to resume aggressive actions against any species, we will respond accordingly. You would help us rebuild? War Leader, we do not seek conquest or revenge. We seek peace. Helping former enemies rebuild prevents future conflicts. It is more efficient than permanent occupation. The transmission ended, leaving Gorthak alone with his thoughts. In 72 hours, humanity had accomplished what no species in galactic history had ever done. They had ended a conflict before it truly began. They had eliminated an entire empire's military capacity without harming civilians. They had turned a test of strength into a demonstration of capabilities that defied understanding. And they had done it all while the emergency session of the Galactic Council convened just 18 hours after the Korthak Empire sent their formal distress call. Representatives from 43 species filled the Great Assembly Hall on Council Station Alpha. The air hummed with nervous energy in dozens of different languages as delegates tried to understand what had happened. Ambassador Zethkri stood at the central podium, his 4 eyes scanning the assembled representatives. In 300 years of service, he had never called an emergency session. The rules required a clear and immediate threat to galactic peace. The destruction of the Korthak military definitely qualified. Honored delegates, Zethkri began. We face an unprecedented situation. The Korthak Empire reports that their entire military infrastructure has been destroyed in a coordinated attack. Initial estimates suggest over 4,000 installations were eliminated simultaneously across 17 star systems. A wave of shocked sounds rippled through the assembly. The Veltar delegate, Ambassador Kethri, raised one of her 6 arms. Ambassador Zethkri, such an attack would require a massive fleet. Do we know which species is responsible? The humans, Zethkri replied simply. The shock in the room was immediate and profound. Delegates began talking urgently among themselves in dozens of languages. Several representatives activated their translation devices to make sure they had understood correctly. The humans, called out Admiral Vexitar of the Regilian Defense Force. Their entire fleet consists of 47 ships. Even if every human vessel participated, they could not attack 4,000 targets simultaneously. That is what we need to investigate, Zethkri replied. I am authorizing immediate deployment of Council investigation teams to both human and Korthak space. We must understand what happened and how it was accomplished. Over the next 72 hours, 3 separate investigation teams gathered evidence from the aftermath of what was already being called the Korthak event. Each team brought back reports that challenged everything the Council thought they knew about warfare. The first team, led by military analyst Dex Allen of the Andromedan Strategic Institute, focused on the physical evidence. Their report was presented to the full Council 5 days after the emergency session. Honored delegates, Dex Allen began. Our investigation of destroyed Korthak facilities reveals several disturbing patterns. First, the attacks showed perfect intelligence about target locations and defensive capabilities. Every Korthak military installation was struck at its most vulnerable point. The analyst activated a holographic display showing the remains of a Korthak command center. Second, the attacks were precisely timed to occur during shift changes when defensive crews were at minimum strength. Third, the weapons used appear to be conventional human armaments, but they were delivered with impossible accuracy. Ambassador Kethri leaned forward. How do you mean impossible accuracy? The humans somehow placed explosive charges inside sealed bunkers, behind multiple layers of security. They destroyed command centers that were built underground and protected by energy shields. They eliminated ammunition depots that were hidden in asteroid fields with no external markings. A murmur of unease ran through the assembly. Several delegates activated their personal shields, an instinctive response to feeling threatened. How did they gain access to these secure facilities? Asked Admiral Vextar. That is what our second investigation team discovered, Dexalan replied grimly. The second team had been led by Information Security Specialist Quinara of the Centauri Data Protection Agency. Her expertise was in analyzing communication networks and electronic warfare. Her report was even more disturbing than the first. Delegates, Quinara began. The humans did not break into Korthak facilities. They were invited in. Invited? Several voices called out simultaneously. The Korthak communication networks have been compromised for approximately 3 years. Every message, every tactical report, every supply order has been copied and analyzed by human intelligence systems. The Korthak Empire was essentially transparent to human observation. Quinara displayed a complex network diagram showing data flows between Korthak installations, but it goes deeper than simple surveillance. The humans have been gradually modifying Korthak software systems. Navigation computers, security protocols, even life support systems have been subtly altered over time. Modified how? Ambassador Zethkri asked. With backdoors and remote control capabilities. When the humans decided to eliminate Korthak military capacity, they did not need to attack from outside. They simply activated control systems that were already in place and turned Korthak weapons against Korthak facilities. The silence in the assembly hall was complete. Every delegate understood the implications. If humans could compromise Korthak networks so thoroughly, they could probably do the same to any council species. How long would such infiltration take? Asked the Veltar delegate. Based on the sophistication of the modifications, we estimate the humans began this operation before they applied for council membership, possibly before they achieved faster-than-light travel. Ambassador Zethkri felt a chill run through his body. You're saying they planned this while they were still confined to their home system? The evidence suggests they have been gathering intelligence on every major galactic power for decades. The Corac attack may have been the trigger, but the capability to respond was prepared long in advance. The third investigation team had interviewed Corac survivors and human officials. Their report, delivered by diplomatic analyst Rex Uri of the Peaceful Mediation Corps, provided the most disturbing information of all. Delegates, Rex Uri began, the humans freely admit to everything our other teams discovered. They acknowledge infiltrating Corac networks. They confirm that their response was planned in advance. They take complete responsibility for eliminating Corac military capabilities. Do they show any remorse? Asked Ambassador Kethri. That is the strangest part of their response. They express genuine sadness about the necessity of violence, but they also state clearly that they would do it again if threatened. Rex Uri activated a recording of his interview with Admiral Sarah Chen, the human military commander. Her image appeared in the center of the assembly hall. "We are not a warlike people," Admiral Chen said in the recording. "We do not seek conflict or conquest, but we also will not allow aggressive species to threaten peaceful civilizations. When the Corac Empire chose to test us, they forced us to demonstrate our capabilities." "Admiral Chen," Rex Uri's voice came from the recording. "Your methods seem extreme. You eliminated an entire empire's military capacity in a single action." "Yes, we did. Quick, decisive action prevents long, costly wars. The Corac Empire can no longer threaten anyone. Their civilian population is unharmed. Their government remains intact. They can rebuild their society however they choose as long as they choose peace. What if they choose war again?" Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment. "They will not choose war again. We have made the consequences very clear." The recording ended, leaving the assembly in stunned silence. Finally, Admiral Vextar spoke. "Are we to understand that humanity has the capability to eliminate any Council species' military forces?" Ambassador Zethkri consulted his notes from all three investigation teams. "According to our findings, yes. The humans appear to have been gathering intelligence on all major galactic powers for decades. They have likely infiltrated communication networks throughout Council space." "Why haven't they attacked other species?" asked the Andromedan delegate. "Because no one else has attacked them," Zethkri replied. "The evidence suggests humans only use their capabilities defensively. But their definition of defense includes eliminating threats permanently." Ambassador Kethri stood up slowly. "Ambassador Zethkri, what is the Council's position on humanity's membership application?" Zethkri looked around the assembly hall. He saw fear in many faces, but he also saw something else: curiosity, interest, and in a few cases, what might have been hope. "Honored delegates," he said carefully, "humanity has demonstrated military capabilities that exceed anything in our historical records. They have also demonstrated restraint and moral principles that are equally unprecedented. They eliminated the Corac military threat but harmed no civilians. They offered to help their former enemies rebuild." "What do you recommend?" asked Admiral Vextar. "I recommend we carefully consider what humanity might mean for galactic peace. For 2,000 years, the Corac Empire has terrorized smaller species through military intimidation. In 72 hours, humanity ended that threat completely. The question we must answer is whether this makes the galaxy safer or more dangerous." Zethkri paused, looking at each delegate in turn. "We have three options. We can deny humanity Council membership and risk making them an enemy. We can grant them membership and hope they continue to use their capabilities responsibly, or we can try to understand their methods and perhaps learn from them." "Learn from them?" the Veltar delegate asked. "Consider this. What if warfare itself could be made obsolete? What if conflicts could be ended permanently instead of simply paused between battles? What if the threat of decisive retaliation prevented?" The Council Military Committee convened in the highest security chamber on Council Station Alpha. 23 of the galaxy's most experienced military leaders sat around a circular table, each representing their species' finest strategic minds. At the center of the table, a single human sat calmly in a chair designed for much larger beings. Admiral Sarah Chen looked small compared to the alien military officers surrounding her. She wore a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations. Her hands were folded peacefully in her lap. She showed no signs of nervousness despite being outnumbered by representatives of species that could physically overpower her without effort. "Admiral Chen," began Supreme Commander Vorthek of the Regilian Defense Corps, "this committee has been tasked with understanding human military doctrine. Your recent actions against the Corac Empire have raised many questions about your species' approach to warfare. I understand, Supreme Commander. I am here to answer any questions you may have. Admiral Dex Allen of the Andromedan Strategic Institute leaned forward. Admiral, our investigation revealed that humanity had been preparing for conflict with the Corac Empire for years before they attacked you. This suggests a level of military planning that seems inconsistent with a peaceful species. Admiral Dex Allen, may I ask you a question in return? Proceed. Do you maintain military forces? Of course. All civilized species maintain defensive capabilities. Why? Dex Allen paused, clearly considering the question obvious. To defend against potential threats. Exactly, Admiral Chen replied. Humans also defend against potential threats. The difference is that we identify and prepare for those threats before they become immediate dangers. General Klixara of the Centauri Peacekeeping Force spoke up. But Admiral, you infiltrated Corac systems years before any conflict occurred. That goes far beyond defensive preparation. General, in human military thinking, the best defense is to prevent wars from starting. We study potential aggressors not to attack them, but to understand how to stop them if they attack others. Stop them how? Asked Fleet Admiral Nexuri of the Tau Ceti Defense Alliance. Admiral Chen was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. By making the cost of aggression higher than any possible benefit they could gain. Supreme Commander Vorthak activated a holographic display showing the destroyed Corac facilities. You eliminated 4,000 military installations in a single coordinated strike. Such an action required precise intelligence and perfect timing. How long did you plan this specific operation? We began gathering intelligence on Corac military capabilities 12 years ago. Detailed operational planning started 8 years ago. The final attack plan was completed 3 years ago. 3 years ago? Admiral Dex Allen looked shocked. You planned to destroy the Corac military 3 years before they attacked you? We planned for the possibility that such action might become necessary. The Corac Empire had a 2,000-year history of attacking smaller species. Logic suggested they would eventually attack us if we appeared weak. General Klixara leaned back in her chair. Admiral, that level of preparation seems to indicate aggressive intent rather than defensive planning. General, may I share with you the core principle of human military doctrine? Please do. Admiral Chen stood up and moved to the holographic projector. With the committee's permission, she activated a display showing human military doctrine documents. Human military thinking is based on a simple principle. War is the failure of civilization. When forced into conflict, we do not seek victory. We seek to permanently remove the threat while minimizing all casualties. The display showed comparative data on galactic conflicts over the past 1,000 years. Bar graphs and charts illustrated typical war durations, casualty rates, and resolution outcomes. Most galactic conflicts follow a predictable pattern, Admiral Chen continued. Military forces engage in battles over months or years. Populations suffer. Resources are destroyed. Eventually, one side gains advantage and negotiates from strength. The defeated side accepts terms but often resumes conflict when they recover. Supreme Commander Vorthak studied the data. This pattern describes most conflicts in Council history. What is wrong with negotiated settlements? Nothing if they actually end conflicts. But look at this data. The display changed to show recurrence rates for galactic conflicts. Species that fought wars often fought the same enemies multiple times over centuries. Negotiated settlements frequently fail because they do not address the root causes of conflict. The defeated side may accept terms temporarily, but they often view the settlement as unjust. When they recover strength, they resume hostilities. Admiral Dex Allen frowned. Are you suggesting that negotiated peace agreements are ineffective? I am suggesting that incomplete victories lead to recurring wars. Humans prefer permanent solutions. Meaning what? Asked General Klixara. Admiral Chen touched the projector controls again. The display showed a detailed breakdown of the Corac operation. When the Corac Empire attacked our colony, they forced us to solve a military problem. The problem was not how to win a battle against their fleet. The problem was how to ensure they would never threaten anyone again. The committee members studied the operational details in silence. The precision and scope of the human response was beyond anything in their experience. Our solution was to eliminate their military capability so completely that rebuilding would take decades. During that time, we provide reconstruction assistance and help them develop economic alternatives to conquest. By the time they could rebuild military forces, they have prosperity to lose and no reason to risk it. Fleet Admiral Nexuri shook her head. Admiral, this approach requires massive intelligence capabilities and perfect operational execution. How do you maintain such capabilities without other species detecting them? Admiral, humans have been observing galactic civilization for over 50 years through various means. Radio communications, electronic surveillance, infiltration of public networks. We began this process before we achieved faster-than-light travel. 50 years? Supreme Commander Vorthak looked alarmed. You have been spying on Council species for 50 years? We have been learning about our neighbors for 50 years. When we developed space travel, we wanted to understand the political and military situation we were entering. Admiral Chen activated another display showing the scope of human intelligence gathering. The committee members grew increasingly uncomfortable as they realized how much humanity knew about their own military capabilities. Admiral, General Klixara said slowly, if humans have this level of intelligence on all Council species, and if your doctrine calls for eliminating threats permanently, how do we know you will not attack us? General, humans only use military force when attacked or when peaceful species are threatened by aggressors. We have no interest in conquest or expansion through violence. But you have the capability to eliminate any of our military forces. Admiral Chen paused. Yes. The simple honesty of her answer sent a chill through the room. Every military leader present understood the implications. Humanity possessed the intelligence and capability to neutralize any Council species if they chose to do so. Why should we trust that you will not use these capabilities against peaceful species? Asked Admiral Dex Allen. Because our doctrine prohibits it and because it would be inefficient. Inefficient? Admiral, conquest requires ongoing occupation and administration. It creates resistance movements and insurgencies. It diverts resources from productive activities. Humans prefer trade and cooperation to conquest because they produce better outcomes with less cost. Supreme Commander Vorthak leaned forward. Admiral Chen, you speak of war as if it were a business problem to be solved rather than a conflict between civilizations. Commander, that is exactly how humans view warfare. Military conflict is a problem that needs solving. We approach it systematically like any other complex challenge. Does this not concern you? War involves the deaths of thinking beings. For the first time during the meeting, Admiral Chen's calm expression showed emotion. Commander, the loss of life in warfare concerns humans deeply. That is precisely why we seek to end conflicts quickly and permanently. Long wars kill more people than short ones. Recurring conflicts kill more people than permanent solutions. She touched the projector controls again. The display showed casualty comparisons between human conflicts and typical galactic wars. The Korthak operation resulted in 0 deaths. We eliminated their military capability without harming their personnel. In a conventional war, hundreds of thousands would have died over years of fighting. The committee members studied the casualty data. The numbers were stark. Human conflicts consistently showed lower death rates than comparable galactic wars. How do you achieve such low casualty rates? Asked Fleet Admiral Nexuri. By targeting systems rather than people. We destroy weapons, facilities, and equipment. We avoid unnecessary harm to military personnel and never target civilians. What about psychological warfare? Fear and intimidation are traditional military tools. Admiral Chen nodded. Humans do use psychological warfare, but not in the way you might expect. Our goal is to make potential aggressors understand that military action against us or our allies will fail completely. This understanding prevents conflicts from starting. General Klixara raised a new concern. Admiral, your methods seem to require that the Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had never hosted a session quite like this one. Representatives from 67 species filled every seat, and for the first time in Council history, the galleries were packed with observers from across known space. The debate over humanity's membership application had captured the attention of every civilized world in the galaxy. Ambassador Zethkri stood at the central podium, his 4 eyes surveying the unprecedented crowd. In his 3 centuries of service, he had seen many historic moments. But today felt different. Today, the Council would decide not just whether to admit a new species, but whether to embrace a fundamental change in how galactic civilization approached warfare and peace. Honored delegates, Zethkri began, we convene this session to vote on the membership application of the species known as humanity. The military committee has submitted their evaluation report. All investigative findings have been distributed. The floor is now open for final debate. Ambassador Kethri of the Veltar Confederation was the first to speak. She rose slowly, her 6 arms gesturing in patterns that indicated deep concern. Fellow delegates, I have reviewed all reports regarding human military capabilities. I have studied their doctrine and methods. I have considered their stated intentions. My conclusion is that humanity represents an existential threat to every species in this galaxy. A murmur ran through the assembly. Kethri's species was known for careful analysis and moderate positions. Her strong statement carried significant weight. The humans possess the ability to eliminate any of our military forces without warning. They have demonstrated this capability against the Corac Empire. They admit to gathering intelligence on all council species for decades. If we admit them to membership, we essentially surrender our independence to a species that could destroy us at will. Several delegates voiced agreement. The fear in the room was tangible. Admiral Vextar of the Regilian Defense Force stood to respond. Ambassador Kethri raises valid concerns about human capabilities. However, we must also consider their actions. In 50 years of observation, humans have never attacked a peaceful species. They have used military force only when attacked themselves or when defending allies. But Admiral called out Representative Duxel of the Eridani Trade Federation. Their definition of defense includes eliminating threats before they attack. How do we know they will not decide that one of our species represents a future threat? The debate continued for hours. Species after species voiced concerns about human military capabilities, methods, and intentions. The fear was understandable. Humanity had demonstrated the ability to end any civilization's military capacity in a matter of days. Finally, Supreme War Leader Morthak of the Corac Empire requested permission to address the assembly. His appearance at the podium caused a sensation. The Corac had been the primary victims of human military action. Their perspective would carry enormous weight. Honored delegates, Morthak began. My people have experienced human military doctrine firsthand. 3 months ago, we were the dominant military power in this region of space. Today, our military capacity is essentially zero. The assembly waited in tense silence for his next words. I speak to you not as an enemy of humanity, but as a witness to something unprecedented in galactic history. The humans destroyed our ability to wage war, but they harmed none of our people. They eliminated our military infrastructure, but they left our civilization intact. They ended our capacity for aggression, but they offered to help us rebuild. Morthak paused, looking around the assembly. In 2,000 years of Corac history, we have conquered 47 species. We have enslaved entire civilizations. We have caused immeasurable suffering across dozens of star systems. The humans ended this reign of terror in 72 hours. Are you defending their actions? Asked Ambassador Kethri. I am stating facts, Ambassador. For 2 millennia, the Galactic Council debated, negotiated, and passed resolutions about Corac aggression. Nothing changed. We continued raiding, conquering, and terrorizing smaller species because the Council could not stop us. Morthak activated a holographic display showing reconstruction efforts in Corac space. 3 months after the humans eliminated our military capacity, Corac worlds are experiencing unprecedented prosperity. Without the cost of maintaining massive military forces, we have resources for education, healthcare, and infrastructure. Human advisors are helping us develop trade relationships with species we previously enslaved. The assembly watched images of former Corac worlds building schools instead of weapons factories, hospitals instead of military bases. Delegates, I ask you to consider this. Would the galaxy be safer if the Corac Empire still possessed the ability to terrorize peaceful species? Or is it safer now that this threat has been permanently eliminated? The question hung in the air as Morthak returned to his seat. Several delegates who had been leaning toward rejecting human membership looked troubled by his words. Ambassador Yilketh of the Peaceful Meditation Coalition stood to speak. Her species was known for their philosophical approach to galactic politics. Fellow delegates, we face a choice between 2 paradigms. The traditional paradigm accepts that some species will choose aggression, and others must defend against them. Conflicts occur, peace is negotiated, and eventually new conflicts arise. This cycle has continued for millennia. She gestured toward the human delegation. Humanity offers a different paradigm. They suggest that aggression itself can be eliminated through decisive action, followed by generous reconstruction assistance. Instead of managing conflicts, they propose ending them permanently. But at what cost? Asked Representative Duxhill. Human methods require massive intelligence capabilities and the willingness to use overwhelming force. Is this the kind of galaxy we want to live in? Admiral Sarah Chen rose from the human delegation seating area. Representative Duxhill, may I address your concern? Sethkri granted permission for the human admiral to speak. Representatives, humans understand your concerns about our methods. We also understand your fear of our capabilities, but consider the alternative. Admiral Chen activated her own holographic display. In the past 1,000 years, there have been over 300 major conflicts in Council space. Most lasted decades. Many involved the same species fighting repeatedly. Casualties numbered in the billions. Resources equivalent to the gross domestic product of entire star systems were destroyed. The display showed comparative data on conflict resolution rates. Traditional diplomatic solutions showed a 57% recurrence rate over 50-year periods. Human methods may seem extreme, but they are effective. The Corac Empire will not threaten anyone again because they cannot threaten anyone again. This is permanent peace, not temporary ceasefire. Admiral, interrupted Ambassador Kethri, your methods work because you have superior capabilities. What happens when all species adopt your approach? What happens when everyone tries to eliminate threats before they become dangerous? Ambassador, that scenario assumes species will continue to pose threats to each other. Human experience suggests that prosperity and security reduce aggressive tendencies. When species feel safe and have opportunities for growth, they rarely choose conquest. Admiral Chen changed her display to show economic data from former conflict zones. Every region where human methods have been applied has seen increased trade, technological advancement, and living standards. Peaceful competition replaces military competition. The debate continued as the afternoon progressed. Gradually, a consensus began to emerge around 3 key points. First, humanity clearly possessed unprecedented military capabilities. Second, they had shown remarkable restraint in using those capabilities. Third, their methods had produced results that traditional diplomacy had failed to achieve. As evening approached, Ambassador Sethkri called for final statements before the vote. Delegates, we stand at a crossroads. We can reject humanity's membership and maintain the status quo. We can accept them provisionally and monitor their actions, or we can embrace their approach and work with them to create a new model for galactic peace. Representative Duxhill stood once more. Ambassador Sethkri, I have listened to this debate carefully. I am still concerned about human capabilities, but I am more concerned about what happens if we reject them. Explain your reasoning. If we deny them membership, we force them to operate outside Council authority. They will still defend themselves and their allies. They will still gather intelligence and prepare for threats, but they will do so without Council oversight or input. That seems more dangerous than working with them. Ambassador Kethri nodded slowly. Representative Duxhill makes a valid point. Perhaps the question is not whether humanity should be part of galactic civilization, but how we can best integrate their capabilities with our values. Supreme War Leader Morthak stood again. Delegates, my people have received reports from our intelligence services. 3 aggressive species that were planning expansion campaigns have suspended their operations. They are requesting diplomatic contact with the Council. None of them have been attacked or threatened by humans. They have